I shouldn't have married an old hag like you. Younger women are definitely better. I can't even walk with you in public, you're so embarrassing. If I could, I'd go back in time and start my life over. These were the words spoken to me by my ex-husband Tom 10 years ago. My name is Elizabeth, 48 years old. I married Tom, who was 5 years younger than me, when I was 33. I was a nurse, and we met at the hospital where I worked. Tom came to the hospital as a new doctor. He had just finished his residency, and he asked me about various things. I found his innocence endearing, and couldn't help but support him. But I was a nurse, and he was a doctor. Not to mention, I was 5 years older, so I didn't think of dating. Still, he talked to me almost every day, and I couldn't ignore him. We eventually started dating naturally. I was a bit concerned about our age difference, but he didn't seem to care at all. So, I stopped worrying too. We got married after 2 years of dating, but after 5 years of marriage, he started to verbally abuse me daily, saying he should have married a younger woman. He would chat with young nurses at the hospital in an exaggeratedly cheerful manner. But I tried to ignore it because it was a workplace. I didn't want to make a scene there, as it would only make me feel miserable. One day, Tom's cheating was caught. The other person was a former patient, but I had never met her because I was working in a different department. She was a woman 10 years younger than me. With an old lady like you, it's no wonder we couldn't have kids. My girlfriend is carrying my child. What? Tom laughed as if cheating were natural. I couldn't bear the thought of being with such a man any longer, so I agreed to the divorce. Of course, I told Tom and his girlfriend that I would be seeking alimony. This made Tom furious, like a raging fire. I was married to an old hag like you for 5 years, and you want alimony? I should be the one getting paid. Who would pay you anything? He ranted with more force than I expected. It seemed he never thought he'd be asked to pay alimony after having an affair. I even received a call from Tom's father, who seemed completely unconcerned with his son's wrongdoing, saying that it's natural for a young man to be attracted to a young woman. I was appalled. Tom insisted that he would never pay, so I had no choice but to consult a lawyer. I couldn't back down quietly after all the horrible things he said and his affair. The lawyer told me that demanding alimony was my right, and I left everything to them. I often heard that getting a divorce is more difficult than getting married, and I truly felt that way. Thanks to the lawyer, I was able to receive the proper alimony, terminate the lease on the apartment we shared, and start living alone. I changed my last name from Evans back to my maiden name, Britton. The only silver lining was that Tom had switched to another hospital. I wouldn't want to be in a hospital with a greedy old hag like you, he said as a parting shot. He must have thought that divorcing because of his infidelity and marrying his mistress right away would inevitably cause resentment among others. But I was impressed by how well prepared he was, having already found a new workplace. However, you can't keep people from talking. I couldn't help but hear the whispers about how I was dumped by my younger husband, and it felt like everyone was looking at me that way. Eventually, I became paranoid that someone was always spreading rumors about me, and it took a toll on me mentally. In the end, I also quit the hospital. I spent some time aimlessly, but since I love working and being active, I decided to look for a new job. Fortunately, I found a small maternity clinic just 2 stops away from my current residence that was hiring nurses, and I was hired on the spot. It was a small hospital with a minimal number of doctors and nurses, but it was a comfortable workplace where everyone got along with the patients. Miss Britton, you're very observant and well-liked by the patients. We're lucky to have you. Thank you! But my peaceful days didn't last long. A pregnant woman who had been referred from another hospital arrived, and when I heard her name, I thought, huh? Sarah Evans. The same name as Tom's mistress. I checked to see if it was a coincidence. Her husband's name was Tom Evans, a doctor. No doubt, my ex-husband. Tom's hospital didn't have an obstetrics department, and they had recently moved nearby and were referred to this hospital. I had changed back to my maiden name after the divorce, and we had never met face to face. She didn't seem to recognize me either, but I never imagined I'd run into them here. I hesitated to tell anyone that she was my ex-husband's mistress, so I kept quiet for a few days. Then, one day, Tom came with his wife for her checkup. Huh? Tom's eyes widened when he saw me. He must not have expected me to be here. I didn't want to meet him here either. What are you doing here? At Tom's words, his wife seemed to realize who I was. Wait, is she... Did you come to this hospital just to harass us? Of course not. I was here first. There's no way I could have known that Tom's new residence was near this hospital. But Tom wouldn't listen to my side of the story and accused me of following them around. You're stalking me to harass me, aren't you? Don't be ridiculous. Why would I do that? You're a greedy woman who squeezed money out of me after being dumped because you're old. Who knows what you'll do? He shouted this in the examination room, and everyone found out about our relationship. Everyone's stares felt piercing, and even though I thought Tom was in the wrong, I felt uncomfortable. Oh, I'm scared! I felt like I've been looked at maliciously ever since I came here. What if something happens to my baby? His wife added insult to injury by saying this with fake tears in her eyes. I don't know what she's capable of, so please don't let her get close to my wife, Tom said firmly. The doctor in charge then urged me to leave the examination room. It probably wasn't that they suspected me, but the only way to defuse the situation was to have me step out. I understand that patients come first, and I didn't want to be there either, but I felt miserable. I started to feel uncomfortable with people around me, as I didn't want the details of my divorce to be known. To make matters worse, Tom's wife continued to come to the hospital and badmouth me every time she came. Although everyone knew I wasn't in the wrong, the other person was a patient. Moreover, she was pregnant and needed to be taken care of. No one could say anything, as they didn't want to upset her nerves and cause health issues or interfere in personal matters. As a result, my comfort in being there only worsened. There was still more than 6 months until her due date, and I couldn't bear the thought of spending all that time in this kind of atmosphere. Even though it was a good workplace, I submitted my resignation to the hospital. It's a shame, but there's nothing we can do, said the director, whose face seemed somewhat relieved. I felt like I was being punished, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. Exhausted by everything, I couldn't bring myself to look for a new hospital to work at and return to my parents' rural home. They welcomed me without saying anything. At first, I couldn't bring myself to do anything, but I felt guilty for just staying at home every day. So I decided to take a part-time job at a nearby supermarket. It was my first time working outside of a hospital, but it was refreshing and a nice change of pace. I loved being a nurse, and I felt a sense of fulfillment in it. But it was a workplace where I was responsible for people's lives, and the weight of that responsibility was immense. There wasn't a single day when I could let my guard down. Being away from that life was emotionally uplifting. 3 years after returning home, I was offered a full-time position at the supermarket. It seemed my hard work was recognized, and I was genuinely happy to accept the offer. 4 years later, a matchmaker approached me. Are you interested in giving an arranged marriage a try? Excuse me? I have just the right person for you. The person who brought this up was the store manager. At 45, I had no intention of remarrying, so I politely declined. But the manager was persistent. The other person was a 47-year-old divorcee like me, with a similar reason for the divorce: a cheating spouse. It had happened 20 years ago. In the end, I couldn't refuse, and we agreed to meet.
Given our ages, we decided to meet directly without involving any intermediaries. When I arrived at the designated restaurant, my counterpart was already there. As I entered the room, he suddenly stood up and bowed deeply, accidentally bumping his forehead against the table. Ouch! He raised his face, which was completely red. I couldn't help but laugh, thinking that such a thing like in a comic would happen these days. Hi, I'm James. Thank you for coming today. Nice to meet you. I'm Elizabeth. Thanks to the initial accident, it didn't take long for us to get comfortable with each other. As I listened to his story, it turns out this arranged meeting happened because he fell in love with me at first sight when he came to our supermarket while on a business trip. He asked for this meeting to be arranged. It seems his college senior is actually the manager of the main store. I'd like to have a serious relationship if possible. I came with the intention of refusing, but in the end, I couldn't say those words, and instead, I found myself wanting to see him again. And so, after dating for half a year, we decided to get married. Both my parents really liked his personality and were genuinely happy for us. Living with my husband, who always thinks of me, was truly a blessing. Since we were both of a certain age, we never wanted children from the start. We just hoped to live a peaceful life together, hand in hand. But when I turned 48, my health began to deteriorate. When I went to the hospital for a checkup, it turned out that I wasn't just sick, but pregnant. I never imagined that I would get pregnant at this age, and I didn't think my illness was morning sickness. I think my husband felt the same way. It seems like there's a baby. When I said that, my husband naturally replied, That's great! So, who's the lucky one? Do I know them? Yeah, I think you know them very well. They're right in front of you. What? I'm the one who's pregnant. At my words, my husband made a puzzled face and was silent for a while. I thought to myself, of course this would happen. He looked down at my belly. Our baby? When I nodded, his eyes widened even more. I'm sure the news was so unexpected that his mind went into a panic. I mean, even I did. So that means we're going to be mom and dad? Seems like it. Really? Yeah. Wow! With an uncharacteristic surprise in his voice, my husband hugged me. It's unbelievable! A miracle! A miracle. Is it okay for me to give birth? I never really considered not giving birth, but there's the issue of age. It's not like I'm not worried about what lies ahead. Even at the hospital, I was asked, what do you want to do? I know very well that there are risks associated with giving birth at an older age, for both the mother and child. I don't expect everyone around me to be supportive. I'm sure there will be people who will ask how old I will be when my child turns 20. I'm not without my fears about whether or not I can raise a child at this age. Still, I could never bring myself to end the life that has taken root within me. What are you talking about? Of course, yes! So when my husband immediately responded that way, I was happy. I thought it was his genuine feeling. But after a while, he started to worry about my health. It's easy to imagine various negative effects, even for a man like my husband. We discussed it at length and decided to go ahead with the pregnancy after talking with our doctor. My parents and his parents were surprised and worried, but they were also very happy. That's how we decided to give birth at a well-equipped, large hospital. The participating doctor was very compassionate and reassuring. And on the day of one of my checkups, not only the obstetrician, but also an internist was scheduled to be there, just in case. My husband was supposed to be there, but he had an unavoidable work commitment, so I went into the examination room alone. To my surprise, my ex-husband, Tom, was also there. Honestly, I couldn't believe I would run into him in a place like this. Wait, seriously?
You're the 48-year-old pregnant woman? Giving birth at that age is unbelievable.
Tom burst out laughing. The obstetrician and the nurse in the room looked confused, but Tom didn't seem to care. You have no right to say that to me.
I'm just worried about you. An old lady getting pregnant. That's just gross.
Is that how you treat your patients? I can't believe you would say something so hurtful to a pregnant woman who's already anxious. Are you really a doctor?
What are you acting so high and mighty for? Most of the patients at this hospital are wealthy, you know. Do you even understand that? You should leave before you embarrass yourself.
Excuse me, Dr. Evans! I'll be leaving anyway. I wouldn't dream of giving birth at a hospital with a doctor like you.
Yeah, get out of here.
Dr. Evans, that woman is the wife of the heir to the Miles Group, who has made significant donations to our hospital.
What?
Dr. Evans, you may not have known since you are new to our hospital.
No way, but she's my...
I have no connection to you. Even so, what you just said was terrible. As Mrs. Miles pointed out, I can't believe a doctor would say something like that.
Just then, my husband arrived. Sorry I'm late. My wife has been a great help to you.
He could clearly see that I was angry, and Tom was pale, sensing something was off.
Is something wrong?
I was just told by this man here, Dr. Evans, that giving birth at 48 is disgusting.
What?
Upon hearing those words, my usually mild-mannered husband's expression changed instantly. And because I mentioned Dr. Evans, he probably realized this man was my ex-husband. I had talked about my previous marriage, and he knew Tom's name and occupation.
Are you Dr. Evans? You insulted my wife, didn't you? Well, that's... What kind of hospital is this, where a doctor insults a patient? I can't trust my wife and unborn child to a place like this.
As soon as my husband finished speaking, the nurse, who had left earlier, returned with the director.
I heard there was some rudeness. Director, we came to this hospital because my father recommended it. But I can't believe a doctor like this is employed here. It seems we chose the wrong hospital. I'm terribly sorry. That's not true. This man is not our doctor. What? I just fired him. Director, what are you... I didn't know he was like this either. I only took him in because a friend asked me to. We don't need a doctor who spouts such abusive language. He won't appear before you again. Wait, Director, what are you saying? Shut up and be quiet. Get out of here, now. Don't come near our hospital ever again.
Hearing the director's words, Tom, who was shouting, "No, I won't leave, I don't want to," was dragged out of the hallway by the obstetrician. The director apologized so profusely that we felt sorry for him. So we regained our composure and sat back down. But my husband's anger didn't subside immediately, and he asked, "Is it because my father has donated to this hospital that you fired him? If not, would you let a doctor like him roam free?" The director shook his head in disbelief. Actually, it seemed that Tom had only been at the hospital for a week. Tom's father was a classmate of the hospital director, and after a recent reunion, he had begged the director to hire his son. The director had never imagined he would be like this and genuinely apologized. It's not like all the doctors at this hospital are like Tom. In fact, our obstetrician is a very good doctor. If Tom wasn't here, I'd want to give birth here, and my husband agreed. My father-in-law is the president of a major company with branches across the country, donating part of their profits to medical and welfare facilities. He had donated a large sum to this hospital because my mother-in-law was treated here for a serious illness when she was young. So my father-in-law recommended this hospital for my childbirth. A few days later, Tom contacted us, begging us to talk to the director and rehire him.
If you ask, they might reconsider, right?
Apparently, He had often angered patients with his arrogant attitude and had been moving from hospital to hospital. I can't think of him as anything but a fool for making the same mistakes over and over. My ex-father-in-law had told him there would be no future for him if he got fired again. However, I can't help but think that my ex-father-in-law's leniency is what made Tom this way. When the call came, my husband was with me. He took the phone from me, yelled at Tom that if he ever contacted us again or came near me, he would report him to the police for harassment, and Tom never called again, probably out of fear. Sometime later, on the way home from the hospital, we stopped by a convenience store and saw Tom working there. It seemed no other hospital would hire him anymore. He was crying and said his wife and child had left him. But I couldn't feel any sympathy. I just decided never to go to that convenience store again. The following year, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She's very adorable. No matter what happens, I'm determined to raise her with responsibility and care. But my husband has been smitten with our child since the moment she was born. He seems to be becoming a very indulgent father, so I have to be careful.
Enough is enough. Just because your son is a doctor, you think you can leech off him? That's not going to happen. Anna, my son's wife, glares at us and starts clinging to my son, Jack. I can't stand the idea of your parents taking the money you earned from me, Jack. Please cut ties with your parents. Even Jack seemed taken aback by her boldness. Cut ties? We don't have to go that far. But Anna didn't back down. Baby, why won't you listen to me? Are your parents more important to you than me? Seeing Anna's exaggerated, tearful display, Jack panics. No, it's not like that. I'll listen to anything you say, Anna. Soothing Anna, Jack turns to us, laughing awkwardly. Sorry, Mom. So, like Anna said, I'm gonna cut ties with you now. Seems like Jack is totally manipulated by Anna. My last hope was to ask Jack, is this what you really want, Jack? Are you sure? Of course. As Jack nods affirmatively, Anna smirks triumphantly. There's no way Jack would choose leeches like you. As a parting gift, though, make sure to give us a nice wedding gift, okay? At her words, I made up my mind. I would not let her have her way. My name is Julie. I work as a nurse in a small hospital. I met my husband Eugene at the hospital. Eugene, who wasn't very healthy, was admitted to my hospital for checkups. Although no particular illness was found, we grew close as I gave him advice to maintain his daily life. After his discharge, we started dating and eventually got married. 2 years after our marriage, I became pregnant. Eugene was overjoyed. He respected my desire to continue working after having our child and was eager to help with child rearing. My parents also loved their grandchild. With the support of Eugene and my parents, I was able to balance my nursing job and raising our son, Jack. Our family of 3 led a peaceful life. When Jack was in his junior year of high school, he made a big decision. Mom, Dad, I've decided to go to med school. I want to become a doctor. As someone in the medical field myself, I was very glad when Jack found his passion in medicine, and I wholeheartedly supported him. Jack studied hard and managed to get accepted into med school straight from college. When we broke the news to his grandparents, they were overjoyed as well. However, another turning point was about to come in our household. Eugene decided to take an early retirement from his company. His frail health had always been a problem, and there were many days he couldn't go to work due to sickness. Taking advantage of an early retirement program seemed like the best choice for Eugene, who decided to retire at 55. Our life, with me continuing to work as a nurse and Eugene doing housework at home, went surprisingly smoothly. Jack finished his 4 years at college and was assigned to the university hospital for his residency. Upon hearing the name of the hospital, I was surprised. Isn't it great? It's the biggest hospital anyone was assigned to out of all my classmates. With Jack boasting so proudly, I felt the need to remind him. Jack, what's important is what you do, not where you are. But it seemed like my words were just mere nagging to the elated Jack. I know that. Can't you, a nurse who can only assist doctors like us, just keep quiet? Jack then completed his residency and decided to work at the university hospital as an internist. Since then, he started going out drinking on his days off and often came home late. It seemed like he was partying with women who were drawn to his title as a doctor at the prestigious university hospital. He always came home reeking of perfume. After about a year of this lifestyle, one day, Jack introduced us to a woman he wanted us to meet. Hello, soon-to-be father-in-law, mother-in-law. The woman who introduced herself as Anna greeted us without hesitation. Anna, how did you get to know Jack? When I asked, Anna answered openly. I met Jack at a social gathering back in college. I didn't think much of him then, but I reconnected with him after hearing he became a doctor at the university hospital. I see. Anna didn't even try to hide the fact that she was more attracted to the title of a doctor than to Jack himself. Meanwhile, Jack, completely oblivious to this, was grinning at Anna. I was surprised when Anna suddenly contacted me. She was the most popular girl in our circle, and now she's saying she wants to marry me. Ha ha. As we sat around the table with Anna, the conversation turned to Eugene. You're a nurse, aren't you? Soon-to-be mother-in-law? I heard you met your husband at the hospital, but was he a doctor too? My husband, Eugene, graciously answered Anna's question. No, I'm just a regular office worker, although I did take an early retirement, so I'm not working now. You're not working? So you're unemployed? Anna's eyebrows furrowed at this revelation. I don't think you call someone that retired early quite simply unemployed. Eugene tried to laugh it off, but Anna's demeanor suddenly shifted. If you're jobless, it's the same thing. What? Eugene was taken aback by Anna's sudden condescension, but she continued with a scoff. It's really inconvenient for me to have a mother who's just a nurse and doesn't make much money, along with an unemployed father. What do you mean inconvenient? Don't you think it's inappropriate to talk like that to us, your soon-to-be in-laws? I blamed Anna, but she showed no sign of remorse. Don't get cocky just because your son is a promising future doctor. She sighed heavily and then looked straight at us. Please don't come to our wedding. What do you mean? The professor from Jack's med school, who's also his boss, is planning to attend our wedding. It would be embarrassing if his parents were just a nurse and an unemployed father. Hold on, it's absurd for both parents to not be attending their child's wedding. Just tell everyone you're sick, then no one can complain, right? But I tried to object, but it was clear that Anna's decision was firm. Eugene then turned to Jack. What do you think about this, Jack? What, me? Jack, taken by surprise, was at a loss for words. Before Jack could answer, Anna interrupted. Enough is enough. Just because your son is a doctor, you think you can leech off him? That's not going to happen. Anna glared at us, then starts clinging to Jack. I can't stand the idea of your parents taking the money you earn from me, Jack. Please cut ties with your parents. Even Jack seemed taken aback by this declaration. Cut ties? I don't think we have to go that far. But Anna didn't back down. Baby, why won't you listen to me? Are your parents more important to you than me? She exaggerates her crying for effect. Panicked, Jack responded. No, that's not it at all. If it's your request, I'd do anything. Jack, who managed to calm Anna, addressed us with a foolish smile. I apologize, Mom, but I'll have to go with Anna on this one. We're cutting ties with you guys. It seems like Jack is totally manipulated by Anna. Betting on my last hope, I asked Jack, Is that really what you want, Jack? Are you sure about this? Of course. Jack replied with a nod. Anna, looking triumphantly, retorted, There's no way Jack would choose leeches like you. As a parting gift, though, make sure to give us a nice wedding gift, okay? Days later, an invitation for their wedding arrived at our home, with the regretfully declined box already checked. The invitation even had a section saying, Please send your gift cards to the following address. As I was flabbergasted, our home phone rang. It was my father.
Julie, we just received an invitation to Jack's wedding, but the regretfully declined box is already checked. It also has an address suggesting us to send gift cards to. What on earth is going on?
It appears that Jack and Anna sent the same invitation to my parents as well. Seeing Anna and Jack trying to abandon not only their real parents, but also his grandparents, who loved Jack dearly, I felt a surge of anger. I absolutely won't let things go Anna's way. I told my father about the time Anna came to our house. They're saying they want to cut ties with me. It seems they don't want me at their wedding. Hearing my story, my father was bewildered, but I asked, Dad, I have a request. On the day of the wedding, can you go with me to Jack's ceremony venue?
But Jack doesn't want us there, right?
I don't intend to attend the ceremony. Apparently a professor from the university hospital, who is also Jack's boss, will be there. I'd like you to tell him about what's happening when you see him at the venue.
I see. Okay. If Jack has cut ties with you guys, it's essentially the same as cutting ties with his grandparents as well.
My father, who had figured out my plan, willingly agreed to go to the venue with me. In addition to that, I did my best to verify Anna's reputation before the wedding day. The day of the wedding arrived. When my father and I arrived at the venue, Anna and Jack were surrounded by their invited colleagues who were all doctors.
I heard your parents are unwell. What a shame, it's your wedding. Well, it is what it is,
Jack answered with an awkward smile. A professor approached Jack, also posing the same question.
Why isn't your grandfather here? Surely he wasn't left out of the invite list, right? Thank you for your concern about my grandfather. I haven't seen him in years, so it's no big deal. He might even be getting a bit forgetful by now.
Unaware of the professor's puzzled expression, Jack remained nonchalant. My father, who had been watching from the sidelines next to me, could no longer contain his frustration and walked over to Jack and his group from behind a pillar.
Who did you say is forgetful?
At the sound of my father's assertive voice, Jack and Anna turned around. Who is this old man? Beside a puzzled Anna, Jack's eyes went wide.
Grandpa, what are you doing here?
Then, spotting me beside my father, he became furious.
And Mom, too? I told you not to come since we've already cut ties.
Jack's superiors glanced between him and my father, whispering amongst themselves. That man is...
Yes, indeed.
Could it really be him? What does he mean by cutting ties? As the doctors started to murmur, the professor asked Jack in a stern voice.
What do you mean by cut ties, Jack? Oh, well, about that.
Jack started to panic. Before he could respond, Anna intervened. Jack's jobless father tried to leech off him who has a promising future, she exclaimed before I could rebut. We couldn't let such parasites meet esteemed individuals like you, Professor, so we politely asked them to refrain from attending the wedding. With a look of disdain, Anna continued while glancing at my father and me. I can't believe they actually showed up at the venue. Bringing along a shabby old man like him, did they think they would earn everyone's sympathy? Regardless of the number, parasites are nothing but a nuisance. At the word parasite, Jack's bosses urgently start speaking to Anna.
Well, what are you saying, miss?
What am I saying? It's the truth, isn't it? Jack agreed that his family shouldn't be invited to the wedding, right, Jack?
Yeah, Anna's right. If you think being blood-related means you get away with anything, you're dead wrong. Even if you're family, I won't let them harm my bright future and career.
At Jack's confident declaration, the doctors turned pale.
Jack, you really don't know, do you? What don't I know?
At Jack's surprised look, his boss doctors simultaneously disclose.
Your grandfather standing there is the former deputy director of our hospital. What? There's no way, right, Mom?
Jack, looking worried, turns to me. I tell him the truth. It's true. Dad was the deputy director of your university hospital.
No way. You never mentioned it.
Jack looks intently at my father, and my father tells him.
I was asked to keep it from you by Julie because we didn't want to put unnecessary pressure on you. Pressure?
I explained to Jack. When I became a nurse, my father was already a respected doctor in the hospital, Being the daughter of such a capable man was pressure to me. I didn't want you to feel the same.
So you kept it from us? The professor turns to Jack with a stern look. Your grandfather is my mentor. Calling my dear mentor a parasite is extremely offensive. And the fact that you don't even appreciate your parents and family, who've supported you this far, I'm disappointed in you.
Under the cold gaze of the professors, Anna rushes to cling to my father and me. We really did want to invite my in-laws. Since you're here, please attend the ceremony.
I'm just amazed at Anna's quick change of attitude. I firmly tell Anna, I decline. The only reason we came here today was to make it clear to the guests why we couldn't attend the wedding. We have no intention of attending the ceremony.
But we're a family. Don't you care about Jack?
Family? Weren't you the one who said you wanted to cut ties with us? We're not a family or anything. We're strangers. My father backs me up. When my daughter cuts ties, that means I lose my connection as a grandfather, too. It seems my daughter has had her say, so we have no more business here.
Mom, Grandpa, please wait for me, Jack weakly muttered. The professor, as if to add insult to injury, said,
Being a doctor involves facing and working with people. If you can't respect your family and elders, you're not fit to be a doctor. It seems you'd better grow as a person in a local hospital, not in our university hospital. You mean... Get yourself transferred to a hospital in our rural network. You mean I'm being sent to the countryside?
Anna glares demonically, while looking at Jack, who was stunned. Rural assignment? You must be joking. I only married you because you were working at the university hospital. Anna confronts Jack, shrieking about divorce. I'll make sure you pay alimony. Anna never really intended to support Jack as his wife after all. There was no longer any reason to be considerate of Anna. Anna, you're the one who's going to be paying alimony. My words surprised Anna. She looked at me. What? Why should I have to?
Anna, you've been having an affair, haven't you?
What?
Suddenly, Anna began to panic.
What kind of evidence do you have to make such an accusation?
I laid out several photos in front of the flustered Anna. They showed Anna snuggling up to an unknown man like a couple, entering a hotel. I asked her classmates about what they thought of you, Anna. They testified about the affair, and I've been investigating ever since. Here's the proof. Upon seeing the photos, Jack started to shake. Anna, you were beating this man behind my back?
It's not what it looks like, Jack. Hear me out.
Why should I? I don't want to hear any excuses. Disgusted by their ugly argument, the guests following Jack's father started to leave one after another. The squabble continued until the venue staff had to intervene. By the time they realized, there were only a few guests remaining. The situation was far from conducive for a wedding, so the event was called off. Jack went straight to the city hall to collect divorce papers. I have no intention of continuing to live with a cheater.
No way, without your prestigious university hospital title, you're nothing appealing to me at all.
Both stubborn and resentful, the two swiftly went through with their divorce. Subsequently, Jack received an official resignation notice from the hospital and was transferred to a hospital in the country. Working alone in the countryside, Jack seemed to be realizing his own immaturity as a doctor. Anna, on the other hand, had to pay alimony to Jack because the evidence of her affair which I presented became the deciding factor. After distributing her assets during the divorce and using her savings to pay the alimony, Anna, seemingly unrepentant, was spotted lurking around the university hospital, desperately trying to charm young single doctors. However, word of her divorce had spread throughout the hospital, and not a single doctor was willing to fall for Anna's advances. Still, Anna couldn't give up her aspirations to be a wife of a doctor working at the university hospital. She had become quite famous in the hospital as the desperate old lady chasing after doctors. Meanwhile, I've been continuing my job as a nurse. Eugene's health has become stable recently, and he's taken a great interest in cooking as his new hobby. Every time I come home from work, I'm greeted with delicious dinner prepared by my husband. While cherishing this happiness, I made a vow in my heart to continue this life with the ones I love.